So what was the reality like though, compared to what you thought?
It was it was freezing to start with.
Really?
We flew
Yeah.
in January, and it was so cold, and there's not a lot of elevations, about 1,500 meters there, which is about, 4.5, 5,000 feet. But when you're walking up hills those first couple of weeks, it takes it out of you, even just at 5,000 feet elevation. So that was a reality, was understanding that, you're not as fit as you were 2 weeks before at Maroubra. When I'd do the stairs there at Coogee, I'd do, a lot of cardio before I got there. And you thought you were fit, but you went over there, and the team and the guys that were there previously, they were like built like cheetahs by the time they left. So however they got there 6 months later, they were running up, 10,000 foot mountains like this, like machines. And that kind of conditioning grows on you over time. So by the time you're at 3 months in, 4, 5, 6 months into your trip, you're chasing bad guys up 20,000 foot, mountains like it's nothing. But on day one, it's hard. You don't
Did,
have that conditioning.
did the army ever go, oh, this is a consideration that we need to do high altitude training as a workup for the guys before they go over?
Um, Not really. Like it was always a thing. So we'd have generally a couple of weeks in country before we went out on missions. So you needed to zero and make sure your sight was level on your weapon. You needed to do a handover for, get the latest intelligence and that your target packages for the next tour. Uh, get vehicles, go and meet the pilots, understand your air packet for that trip. So there was a lot of stuff going on anyway that would generally last a couple of weeks. So during those first 2 weeks in theatre, your body would sort of understand where, how high it was and how difficult it was to get the full amount of air in your lungs. So you would train like hell when you got there. So ideally, you weren't doing any jobs for the first 2 or 3 weeks anyway. So you would just do a lot of training.
You mentioned air packets, which I'm assuming that's just what type of aircraft and stuff, and you're meeting the pilots. How much did you butter up the pilots so you knew that they would go the extra mile to come and do stuff to get you out? Because if I'm over there, I'm buttering up whoever I need to butter up to make sure they're going to come and do whatever they can. And I'm not saying that they wouldn't anyway, but there's doing stuff and then there's doing stuff. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're right. There is, right. It's going the extra mile in a shootout in daytime when you need an extraction and guys are running around with RPGs and PK and machine guns. So it is important to have a good rapport with those guys. You're right. So we would, and to our credit, we had the best mess in country. We had the best food at TK there. We had great Aussie chef crab. We had curly fries, pies and Mars bar ice creams and milk, actually fresh milk, which it blew everybody away. You're bringing the Americans in, they're like, "Oh my God, fresh milk! I can't believe it. I love you guys. Can I stay for lunch and breakfast?" And so that was our key enabler to get guys in and to get to bribe them. So yeah, that was key. But we had great air packets, and I can't remember how often they'd rotate, maybe every 4 to 6 months as well. But they were kind of off cycle to us. But they were out of TK, would have Black Hawks and Chinooks, the CH-47. Um, so that was when I got there in '08. By 2010, we'd have Mi-17s, which were the Russian built old troop lift aircraft. The Americans had bought them and spent a lot of money on them to make sure they were airworthy. We had the CH-53s, we had
Hang
Hueys,
on, hang on. America was buying aircraft off Russia.
not from Russia. They were Russian made initially, yeah, and then they
Okay.
American made them American spec, I guess, so they could put Americans in the back and put the UK and Australians in them. But it's a good point. They're old. There's stuff falling off left, right, and center, and they leak fuel and oil all over the place. But they got us around.
I would have thought it would have been cheaper just to build them from scratch, but anyway.
So they're flown by Afghanis as well. So you generally had an American in with the Afghanis, but sometimes during maybe hot extractions, if we're getting shot at, and different aircraft are dedicated to a specific landing spot, we may be at a different landing spot and get on an aircraft flown by Afghani pilots. So their skill sets and their abilities maybe, don't match their enthusiasm sometimes. We didn't have a crash, but we didn't do any night flying with them because they didn't know properly how to fly with night vision goggles. So they do
Yeah.
day jobs. With day jobs comes more threat because, of course, during daylight, everybody can see a troop lift coming in and pulls their RPG out from under the bed and tries to shoot it down.